Hi, my name is Elizabeth Walker. Welcome to our second ISSO Live Q&A event. This is to help answer questions that many prospective, current, and alumni students may have about current guidance affecting international students. We'd like to welcome all the attendees, whether you're in the US or abroad. We know that this is a vital service that helps answer your questions. I just wanted to give you an overview of the format of the event. First, we will have some important information from our director, Josephine Vita, followed by pre-submitted questions and answers. And then as time permits, we will address questions in the live Q&A. And now I will hand it over to Josephine Vita, our director.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be with you again, even if it is in this virtual format. I also want to welcome you and thank you for taking the time to join us for this session. I did have a few slides to go into. We had a number of questions that are in the same format, so rather than go through individual questions, we decided it would be more helpful to just provide an overview of information. So if I could get the next slide, please. Okay. So the good news is that the guidance that ICE put out in early July was rescinded, and then last week they issued new guidance that provides us with some information about the fall 2020 semester. So keep in mind that it's only about the fall, it doesn't cover spring, but it gives us some information about how we can assist you in maintaining status, how you're going to be maintaining status in international student status. So we sent out emails to current students and alumni as well as prospective students yesterday or Monday or Tuesday. So we encourage you to look at the information that you have received for much more detailed guidance to you. But I want to also provide you with an overview on how this might affect the new guidance might affect you. So the first thing is our FV students, that is our new students who are planning to begin their studies outside of the United States during the fall semester, are not really impacted. You can continue to enroll in classes, take your classes asynchronously. For some reason, I always have a hard time with that word. And they shouldn't be very much of an impact on you. What we do want to let you know that you need to be mindful of enrollment and registration deadlines that are coming up. If you have not yet searched the UTD website for the academic calendar to know when you need to register, when payment is due, how to make payment, etc., we encourage you to find that information and also reach out to the bursar's office if you have any specific question. The other piece we want to highlight is some of you are in countries that have specific laws that may impact your ability to study remotely during the fall. We know many of our Iranian students will need to get an exemption that we've reached out to you and are working with the Office of Research to provide. There may be other countries that may have specific laws that we need to try to assist you with so you can be successful in studying abroad. If we have not reached out to you about anything specific to your country, but you know there's something that has an impact, please let us know. We're really good about knowing the rules for the United States, but we don't know the rules for all of your countries. So just reach out to us and let us know. So for new students who are able to arrive in the United States for the fall, you will be able to travel to the United States with an I-20 to begin your studies in the US, provided you're able to get a visa. Now we have, I actually looked at some of the data on the visa update e-form and I-comment. I think we had about 40 students indicate that they have been able to receive a visa to arrive. And we do hear sporadic reports of you, many of you students letting us know that you're able to get a visa. We're really happy to hear that and hope you're also able to get a flight to come to the United States if that's still your intention to continue to do so. If you are going to be arriving in the United States, if you have not yet gotten an updated I-20 that just states that the university is fully operational, and that you have the ability to study in classes that have in-person components, reach out to us by email and we can provide that to you. The thing to keep in mind is for enrollment for new students coming into the United States, as well as students who've changed their status status within the United States, for whom summer or fall is going to be your first semester in F1 status, you will need to be prepared to be in at least one class that has an in-person component. That can be a fully face-to-face class, that can be a class that's hybrid or high flex, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. But you just need to be prepared to be enrolled in those courses and be able to come on campus for those courses, for the portions of those courses. For transfer students, there's still a little bit of clarity that we're looking for. Many times transfer students are treated very much in similar ways as new students. However, the way the guidance is written, it's a little bit unclear about whether transfer students would need to have classes that have in-person components. So we sent an inquiry out to DHS. It's actually not just a question that our institution has, and we're hoping to hear back from them very soon. We don't like to tell students information if we're not sure, because we don't ever want you to have an enrollment or academic plan that might have negative repercussions in the future. So we just ask a little bit of continued patience so that we can make sure that we can provide you an answer about whether or not you need to have an in-person class component. And then the last group are going to be our continuing or current students. We use those words interchangeably. You are able to be in a fully online format. You are able to maintain your F1 status either within the United States, or if you are abroad, you do not need to have an authorized early withdrawal with the new guidance. So if you're going to be in, if you want to maintain your F1 status, you can remain enrolled full time, and we'll be able to issue an I-20 with you stating that you are outside the United States due to COVID. So as a result of that, we don't foresee that there's going to be any limits, any of the 5-month limits on your ability to return to the United States. They do not seem that they're going to be in effect. So we will be reaching out to students who to update their I-20s no later than the 30th day of classes for those who are going to be outside the United States, who are current students in F1 status. A little later on, one of our other advisors is going to be speaking a little bit more about that and how it impacts CPT and OPT. Can I go ahead and get the next slide, please? So another really important question that students have is about the ICE StemDesignated List. So some of you may realize that about, I don't know, actually sporadically, ICE does have an update on what degree programs are eligible to be STEM designated or not. The U.S. Department of Education updates their list about every 10 years. We just want to be really clear. There's going to be no updates for business analytics, which is a lot of students have had a lot of questions about whether or not it's on the STEM designated list or not. There's no updates, there are no changes. You are able to remain in the same CIP code that is STEM eligible. What we are waiting to see is what the outcome is from ICE. They have let us know that they're going to potentially update the STEM list in late August or possibly early September with their updated list. Any changes to CIP codes, though, aren't automatic based on ICE. We look to the Texas Higher Ed Coordinating Board to let us know what is the appropriate CIP code. We look to the university, our university administration to tell us what the appropriate CIP code. So in the early fall, you'll be looking for information from us to see if something has changed, what has changed, and we'll communicate that to you. But as of right now, nothing has changed. And there's no news. But we do know we received some questions about what happens if there's a change, which I-20s are updated. We just want to make sure everyone knows if there are any changes. All existing I-20s are updated, prospective students, current students, alumni on OPT or STEM OPT. Next slide, please. All right, so we also had a number of questions about how to contact ISSO. We know that this is, you all have a lot of questions. You read the information, you're trying to figure out how it applies to you. We just want to remind you, ISSO documents at utdallas.edu is only for document submission. And we take that information and we just scan in requests into the system so advisors can process requests. If you have any questions that needs an advisor to respond to you, please don't send them to ISSO documents because we're not looking for questions. We're just really looking for document submission. So if you have questions, And your prospective students, you want to go ahead and email to ISSO Perspective, and we can answer your questions. If you're a current student or even actually an alumni, you can go into iComment and submit an Ask an Advisor e-form. What a change that we've recently made is that the answer to your question is going to show up in iComment rather than show up as an email. And that way you'll be able to keep all of your information in your iComment system. So make sure that you look for that. If you have questions from an advisor, we still have advising appointments. On many days, we have up to about 55 advising appointments for students, and we know that they get filled up really quickly. We release a couple of days at a time, so if you're not able to see that there's an advising appointment, it can look really scary as if there are no advising appointments for the rest of the month. Check back the next day, and often you'll be able to see another day of appointments that are released. Another thing that we're doing is we've piloted group seminars, so that way we can have a number of students, about 8 or 10, who can receive, sort of a short top 3, list of information for specific topics, and have a chance to ask an advisor questions. These are going to be really good if you have general questions, because we don't want you to share your private information. You'll be seeing more information about that, but that's something we're trying to do to serve all of you as much as we can. The last thing I want to say before I introduce Samaya, who's one of our advisors, is we understand that it is a very challenging immigration environment. There's a lot of information, things can change, and all of you are trying to see what that means for you and what proactive action steps that you need to take to make sure that you can be successful academically and professionally. We understand that. We are here to support you and to meet the needs of international students. We are an office that is like you, living under a pandemic. Many of us are working from home. You might be hearing my kids playing in the background as we try to serve you. So if we are not able to get to you as quickly as we can, please be patient. Just keep in mind, we know how important it is. We get a lot of questions, and we're trying to support you to the best of our ability. So the next person I'm going to introduce is Samaya, who's going to be able to answer some of the pre-submitted questions.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Josephine, for that overview of kind of what we have going on right now. Again, my name is Samaya, and I'm one of the International Student Advisors. Of course, a lot of things Josephine has already addressed, but I am going to reiterate it here in the Q&A section of the pre-submitted questions that we've already received. So some of the topics that I will be covering today are going to be Fall 2020, OPT STEM, a few other visa categories, and then of course travel. So starting with Fall 2020, a student asked, with ICE rescinding the regulation, can I travel to my home country and attend my fall semester from there without forfeiting my F1 status, CPT, and OPT eligibility? So of course, we've gotten a lot of questions about whether continuing students can do their fall semester completely online. The answer for that is yes. The March guidance has been extended, and that will apply to continuing students. Unfortunately, for prospective students, you must have a face-to-face component to begin in F1 status. Another student asked, will we need a new I-20 in light of the new SEVP guideline after the old one was rescinded? So since the guidance has been rescinded and no part of the directive will go into effect, the requirement to reissue all I-20s with the new remark is also no longer in effect. The ISSO will not be reissuing I-20s for all UTD F1 students. For current students inside of the US, no action will be taken. And if you are studying abroad or have left to return to your home country for fall, we will add a remark saying that they are studying outside of the US due to COVID. For prospective students, we will be adding a general remark indicating that UTD is following a hybrid model on all new I-20s. Again, this is not something that is required by DHS, and some Department of State embassies and consulates are asking for this information for the visa interview process. Any student who is going for a visa interview may submit an I-20 reprint request through iComment or an Ask an Advisor e-form to receive the remark. A question that we have received a lot is, what's the difference between all the types of instruction modalities? What do you mean by online classes and virtual remote learning classes? The course modalities have been set by the Office of the Registrar and are explained on their webpage. Feel free to reference this screenshot here to kind of understand what the modalities are. The main difference between remote and virtual and online is that the remote virtual option still requires you to sign in and participate in the course synchronously at the same time as the rest of your classes. All courses, regardless of modality, will have an asynchronous option available. You will be able to contact your professor to let them know you will be completing the course asynchronously. This means you will complete the coursework online and that you are not required to log in at a specific time. You should be able to access your class schedule through your Galaxy to see what modality your course will be offered in. The next question we received from a student is, I have recently changed my program. However, I never received a copy of the new I-20, just a PDF. Will I receive it, or will we be receiving new I-20s for fall 2020? Again, electronic I-20s are valid immigration documents under the guidance released by SUVP due to COVID-19. At this time, the ISSO is only mailing physical documents in emergency cases, such as when the physical document is required for SSN applications. This is to keep our staff and our students safe and maintain as much physical distancing as possible. Moving forward, we're going to talk a bit about OPT STEM. For those lucky students, we have this question: my H-1B got approved. Do I need to submit any form before October 1st? And after October 1st, will my SUVP portal be updated automatically? If you are a student on OPT who is changing to H-1B on October 1st, you should submit a copy of your H-1B approval notice and an OPT reporting form within 10 days of October 1st to report the change. SUVP may not update automatically. However, you are required to report to the ISSO with the paper form. Note, for other questions about H-1B, such as questions about H-1B transfers, you will need to refer to your immigration attorney or company. The ISSO advisors are not experts on H-1B. Once you are on H-1B, you are no longer affiliated with the school as an F1 student. You will no longer have reporting requirements to the ISSO. Up until your H-1B is effective, you will have reporting requirements. Continue to report any changes in employment, personal address, or name to the ISSO via an OPT reporting form or STEM reporting form. Again, just to reiterate, when you are sending in those documents to report any type of changes, you will submit documents to issodocuments@utdallas.edu. Next question we have is, would it be wrong to fill the SUVP portal regarding employment for post-completion OPT by ourselves? If done so, should we remove the entry made by us from the portal? Now, if you do this, you're not necessarily wrong, and you do not need to remove the entry. In fact, we recommend that you please do not remove entries from CVIS. The ISSO advisor will verify the information submitted on the OPT reporting form and will ensure that your information is entered correctly. Remember, you must also submit a reporting form to the ISSO. Next question. How long is the UTD email address for students valid? Can you ensure that it is valid until the end of the STEM extension? For students who are on OPT or STEM extension, the UTD email address remains valid through your STEM OPT period. Students on OPT are given extended access to the UTD email address. However, if you're having trouble accessing your email account, you will need to contact the OIT help desk at assist@utdallas.edu. For other visa categories, a student asked, how soon can I apply for a change of visa status and what is the processing time? What are the requirements to maintain F1 status and to be qualified for OPT or CPT? You would need to apply prior to valid status expiring, meaning prior to your current status that you hold expiring, and there should not be a gap of more than 30 days between your old status and your new status. A gap of more than 30 days means that you are more likely to receive a denial. You must apply prior to the semester start date for the semester you want to begin your new status. Expect processing delays due to USCIS furloughs. However, in the last few years, we've seen typical processing times for change of status 6 to 12 months. Those times may be much longer now. To do CPT or OPT, you must enroll full-time for 2 long semesters, and that time that you enroll for can accrue in another lawful category that allows for full-time enrollment, such as H4. We do recommend that you schedule an appointment to discuss with an advisor if you're wanting to do a change of status to F1. Otherwise, if changing to a different visa category, you may want to consult with an immigration attorney. The final section that we'll cover for pre-submitted questions will be travel. A student asked, I'm an international student currently in my home country. Am I required to travel to the US before December to maintain my F1 status? If yes, what is the deadline for me to reach US, as currently there are no flights from my home country? If no, will I still be eligible for CPT in summer of 2021? If you are a continuing student, you can maintain F1 status abroad while studying online. You are not required to re-enter the US to maintain status. If you continually maintain F1 status and enroll full-time each long semester, you will be eligible for CPT in summer of 2021. I want to reiterate that you guys must maintain a full-time enrollment to be eligible for these authorizations. Next question. If I do an internship from outside USA, will it affect my F1 status? Will I be allowed to enter the USA at the end of the semester on the same visa? If you are working for a US employer, you may work remotely outside of the US as long as you are approved for a CPT and the company either has an office abroad or can monitor your progress remotely. If you want to participate in an internship in another country and the employer is not a US employer, you have 2 options to preserve your F1 status. You can either apply for the internship under Education Abroad and earn UT Dallas credit, or you can apply for an AEW to terminate your F1 status, essentially allowing you to take a break for the semester while you are outside of the US. The AEW option comes with some risks. It allows the ISSO to terminate your status for non-negative reasons and allows you to try to reactivate the same F1 CVIS record within 5 months to come back for the next semester. When it's time for you to come back, we must request to reactivate your record. The reactivation request is adjudicated by SEVP and there is no guarantee of reactivation. If your record is not reactivated, you will need to apply for a new F1 I-20 and with a new CVIS ID number, and you would begin a new F1 status. In this case, in order to be eligible for CPT or OPT, you would have to re-establish your eligibility by enrolling full-time for 2 long semesters. Next question a student asked is, it is hard to renew passports right now, as many embassies are not operating. What do we need to do if the passport is about to expire and it will take a while to get renewed? If your passport is expiring and you are in the US, you should contact your country's embassy or consulate to identify what options are available. We recommend documenting your attempts to renew your passport. If you are traveling internationally and returning to the U.S., you must have a valid passport. Expired passports will not directly affect F1 status. The ISSO will not take any negative action on your record based on an expired passport. For our final question, a student submitted, I'm an international student and will travel back to the US on August 14th. I am not sure that I do need a new I-20, which states that UTD will be giving classes out in a hybrid model in the remarks section. The answer for this is the guidance has been rescinded, including all implementation of the directive. You do not need a special remark in order to travel. You should make sure that your I-20 has a valid travel signature on page 2, and that will be 12 months for current students, 6 months for students on OPT or STEM OPT extension, a valid visa, and a valid passport. You may also carry supporting documents like copies of your transcripts. However, you can see the ISSO webpage for details about traveling internationally and what documents you should carry while traveling. So again, we received many pre-submitted questions, and we thank you so much for taking the time to submit those to us. And I hope that this was very informative for you. If you still have further questions that we are not able to answer in the pre-submitted questions, in the Q&A section that is going to follow right when I wrap up, please remember that we do have advising services available to you, which would be through the Ask an Advisor e-form through iComment, or by scheduling an appointment by selecting the advising option on our webpage and seeing what appointments we may have available next. We will have an immigration news email coming shortly to you today, so make sure that you check your UTD email for that information. Thank you guys, and now we will pass it over to Lissa.
Thank you, Samaya. That was all very informative and helpful. And now we're going to be moving to our live Q&A. The questions will be answered by myself and Josephine Vita. We will get to as many questions as we can. Ones we don't get to, we may send a follow-up email with responses. And you are always welcome to reach out to us for advising by submitting an Ask an Advisor e-form or scheduling an appointment. So let's move on to our first question. We received a question asking from a student who changed their status. They changed their status to F1. If one of my classes updated to the mode of instruction as hybrid, when is the last date I can request an updated I-20 saying I had a hybrid class? So for change of status students, you do have to have at least one face-to-face or hybrid HiFlex course. You should be able to enter the United States. And if you need an updated I-20 with a remark indicating that we are fully operational, you can send an email to issocurrent@utdallas.edu. There is no deadline to request that. I just say as soon as possible. Okay, our next question is, in case I don't make it to the US this semester and get the visa appointment in October for spring, how will I manage to prove that I will be taking in-person classes for spring? I'm going to let Josephine Vita answer this question.
Thank you. That's a great question. So one of the things you're going to be able to do for spring semester or any semester that you're registered is see your enrollment in Galaxy. So you have two options if you want to have some verification about what your enrollment is. One is to look at your, can you all hear me? Oh, okay. All right. So one of your options is to go into Galaxy, look at your course enrollment, and you can do a printout from Galaxy about what your enrollment is and what the course method is. A second option that you can do is request an enrollment verification letter. This would be something that you can search for on the UT Dallas website. and you can just use the search term enrollment verification, and there you'll be able to request a letter or other document that will be able to establish what your enrollment is. Additionally, if it's spring semester and you're wanting to get evidence about the courses you took in the fall, you can also request a transcript online. And again, you can search on the UT Dallas website to get a transcript to show what your completed courses were. So there's a lot of resources for you to be able to do self-help online. The information about enrollment is something that the registrar's office is going to be able to help you with. The registrars in the United States is the office that handles course enrollment sort of requirements and transcripts for the whole university. The ISSO can assist you with immigration, so we can't help with the enrollment parts of it, but the registrar's office is the one that can help you verify and have evidence about what your enrollment is or has been. I'll pass it to you, Lissa.
Thank you, Josephine. The next question is, if I enroll for 12 credit hours this fall, 2020, by taking remote classes, will I be eligible for an F1 visa to come to campus in spring 2021? So everything we know right now from the US government is applicable to fall. We do know that you may maintain F1 status this fall by being physically present in the US or outside the United States, and you can take fully online courses or hybrid courses. That will allow you to maintain F1 status this fall, and if you're outside the US, we will give you an I-20 with a remark. We assume by maintaining F1 status this way in the fall that you would be eligible to return to UTD for the spring 2021 semester. However, we cannot confirm the spring 2021 guidance as it has not been published yet. As soon as we receive any information pertaining to spring 2021, we will share it with you. All right, next question. And I think this is similar to the one Josephine answered before, but I'll let her address it again if there's anything else to say. I am joining UTD this fall virtually through remote classes. I have my visa interview in October to come to campus for spring 2021. How will I show the visa consulate that I will be enrolling in person for spring 2021 if I start my degree virtually in fall?
Sure, I can absolutely answer that. And I'm going to fold this into not only what I said earlier, but also a little bit of what Lissa said. So if you are a new student in FV status, you've not come to the United States, you're enrolling remotely in the fall, your intention is to arrive in the spring, you get a visa in order to arrive in the spring. The fact that you are in remote or online classes in the fall is not a detriment at all and does not prevent you from getting a visa. And actually, to our mind, it helps for you to have evidence to show that you're a bona fide student who is academically qualified to pursue the degree requirements that you're attempting to enter the United States to pursue. If you are a current student outside of the United States in the fall taking online classes, the ICE guidance has said that that is okay. The ISSO is going to go ahead and put in a remark to indicate that you are outside of the United States due to COVID-19. And we, again, according to the guidance that was just released, we don't see that there's going to be any negative implications if you either are returning to the US with your existing visa, or if you need to apply for a new visa, maybe your previous one expired, in order to return to the US visa. So again, if you're wanting evidence to show the consulate that you have been enrolled appropriately for the previous semester, you're going to want to do that through an enrollment verification letter and information in Galaxy. If you want to show, okay, I'm coming in for spring semester, and in the spring semester I am enrolled appropriately, you will also be able to get evidence of your enrollment in Galaxy by printing out your course enrollment, or you can reach out to the registrar's office for their instructions on how you access an enrollment verification letter. I'm going to turn it back to you, Lissa.
All right, thank you, Josephine. Our next question, how will the visa office consulate know we have already started studies virtually when the I-20 does not show a course start date. So I'm not sure if this is from a prospective or continuing student. The I-20 does not show the semester start date for continuing students. That is true. Like I said before, we can give you an I-20 with the remark saying outside the US due to COVID-19. If you're going to be re-entering the United States or applying for a visa, you may want to carry proof of the course modality to your visa interview. And for prospective students, you can request an I-20 that says the university is fully operational. I would also recommend that you carry a copy of the academic calendar that shows when courses begin, if you're a continuing student that does not have an I-20 with a new program start date. Okay. All right, another question. Do we need a new I-20 with remarks saying hybrid to apply for a change of status? I'm going to start fall 2020 as a new student on H-4 visa. I will let Josephine answer that.
Okay, let me go ahead and answer that. I'm not entirely sure if you have already applied for a change of status or if you are planning on applying for a change of status. So let's take both of those things. If you are starting classes or you're going to be in classes in fall 2020, you're in H-4 status and you are going to be applying for a change of status to F1, while you're remaining in the United States, meaning you're staying in the US, you're mailing your application to USCIS asking for a change of status. I don't foresee that there's a need for us to indicate that you're going to be enrolled in hybrid classes. That's not a part of the process. There's nothing in the guidance that says that. If it makes you feel more comfortable to put an indication that about what your enrollment is, again, you're going to want to use the tools that I mentioned earlier about how you can establish what your enrollment is as part of the change of status application process. If you are a student taking classes in fall and you have already submitted your change of status application, it is with USCIS and they are reviewing whether or not you can change from H-4 to F1. Again, there's no need to change the I-20, the information on the I-20 to add remarks about the hybrid status. So in both of these scenarios, whether you've already applied for change of status or you're planning on it, I don't foresee that there's going to be a need to get an updated I-20 different than what we normally would produce in order for you to apply for a change of status. All right, I'm going to turn it on back to you, Lisa.
Thank you, Josephine. Another question we have is, I wanted to know about October start date for the I-20. My visa appointment is on October 7th. If it goes through and I get my F1 stamped, can I use a fresh I-20 with mid-October start date issued by UT Dallas? Yes, you can. So there are many students who may have been issued an I-20 for an August 17 start date, but due to visa appointment availability, may not be able to arrive until the October program start date. If you realize that you're not going to make it by August 17th, but then you do get the visa shortly thereafter, you will need to have your departmental approval to arrive in October, and you may request an updated I-20 through the ISSO to get the I-20 with the October start date. And you would need to be ready to enroll in at least one hybrid or face-to-face course for the second 8-week session. All right, next question. If the current students choose to study abroad, do we still have to pay for insurance? Okay, so if a current student is choosing to be abroad during the fall semester, will they have to pay for insurance? I will hand that over to Josephine.
Thank you. That's a great question. So if you are a current student, you've already been here throughout this time, and you are enrolling and you see that the health insurance is applied to your account, you're going to want to reach out to the Student Health Center. They're open and answering their emails, and you can request for them to be able to waive it. Since you're outside of the United States, you have the grounds to be able to request them to waive it. Now, you may actually want to consider maintaining it because the student health insurance that we have does cover you while you're outside of the United States. We are undergoing some a pandemic with potential health implications. So I would encourage you to think through, you know, whether or not, if you don't already have insurance in your home country, whether or not you may want to keep it so that you can access the health insurance while you're there and when you subsequently travel to the United States. But that's something for you to consider and something for you to reach out to the Student Health Center. But they have let us know that students, current students who are outside the United States, can reach out to them for a waiver. Now, if you are an FV student, meaning you've already indicated to the ISSO that you are a new student, you're planning on starting your classes virtually, and you will not be in the United States, you should not actually be subject to student health insurance at all. It should not be automatically assessed on your account. Again, if something happens and it is assessed, reach out to the Student Health Center for them to work with you on removing it. If you decide, no, actually, I do want to have that health insurance as an FV student, again, reach out to them. They can assist you with that. If you find that you're going to be coming in the middle of the semester, sort of like that previous question where the individual said, I'm getting a visa, I may get a visa, and I may be eligible to come for the second 8-week term, you can then, when you arrive in the United States, go ahead and get health insurance at that point. You would not need to wait until the spring semester because you absolutely wanted to be covered for health insurance while you're in the United States. So I think that answers the health insurance question. If you have follow-up things that we didn't answer about that, again, the Student Health Center is open. They're answering questions. Go ahead and reach out to them and they can explain it much more fully about what the insurance covers and what the pros and cons are of accepting it. I'm going to turn it back to you, Lissa.
All right, our next question is, do I need to submit an I-20 request before registering for classes? No, you do not. Whether you're going to be in FV status or initial status studying in the United States or current student studying in the US or abroad, an I-20 issuance is never required to register for classes as long as you have gotten your holds removed that may be in your Orion account, then you are welcome to go ahead and enroll for classes. All right, next question. I would like to ask if I will be able to work remotely from abroad while I'm under OPT employment in case there are still travel restrictions. I will hand this to Josephine.
Sure, I'll be happy to answer that. So OPT employment is designed to be for employment in the United States. There have always been exceptions for situations where your employer has asked you to work outside of the United States for a temporary purpose. Maybe you're assigned to a project at a subsidiary office outside the US for a month or so. That's always been fine. With the pandemic, we don't see that there's anything that changes that. If your employer is allowing you to maintain your employment, you're still considered an employee of the company, and it's a company with an office in the United States that's able to monitor and give you the training that is a part of the OPT. We don't foresee that there's a reason that you would not be able to work remotely while you're abroad, whether it's because your employer has asked you to work at that location or because you're not physically able to return to the United States due to pandemic-related mobility issues. What I'd recommend that you do is document as much as possible the reasons why you're outside the United States working under OPT. If it's something from your employer, make sure you can document either that they've asked you to, say, work at that subsidiary company or that they approve you to engage in your work abroad. You're still an employee, you're still meeting it, they can still supervise you and provide you with training and guidance while you're outside the United States. If it's because of travel-related issues, make sure you can establish the evidence of the lack of, flights back to the United States, et cetera. You always want to have documentation to establish if there's what you're doing in case there are any questions in the future. All right, I'm going to turn it back to Lissa.
Thank you, Josephine. Our next question is, how do I check if my I-20 reflects FV status or not? So your I-20 would actually not reflect FV status. If you're going to start as a student in FV status for fall and not be able to report to UTD in fall, please let us know by sending an email to isssoperspective@utdallas.edu. Or there's also information on our website about how to let us know that electronically. Once you realize after starting virtually that you will be able to report to the campus, then you can request an updated I-20 for the future program start date. All right, next question. I am a new student and I have received a scholarship for fall 2020 and spring 2021. Will it still be valid if I take virtual classes for fall? I will refer that to Josephine.
Sure, I'll be happy to answer that. I also want to just, before I do that, I want to jump back for a minute to talk about FV that Lissa already covered. So FV is not an actual immigration status. The actual immigration categories are F1, or if you're a dependent of an F1, you can be an F2. But FV is something that we are using internally within UT Dallas so that our campus community knows who our new students are, who are starting their program virtually, but plan to arrive physically in the future, right? Whether that's later on in the fall or in the spring. So there's nowhere on the I-20 where it's going to say that, because it's actually not a real immigration classification. It's just something for our purpose to understand what you're doing. So the I-20 is going to reflect what is required for your F1 status for your future arrival to the United States. It may likely say spring. While your FV status within the university, we know you're starting classes in the fall. We know to give you the orientation for the academic department. We know to support you in getting things ready for you to be prepared for classes in August. So I'm going to jump to the question. And the question was about scholarships. Is that correct? Pretty sure it was.
Yes.
So if you received a scholarship, what you're going to want to do is look at who granted the scholarship to you. There's a number of people that may have granted you a scholarship. It may be an academic department. It may be with a different cultural group, or there's a number of scholarships that you might be eligible for, and we can't speak to all of them. Look at who granted the scholarship to you, reach out to them and ask them specifically how it works if you're going to be starting virtually. They will be able to best advise you on whether or not there's any impact to studying virtually on your scholarship. That goes with any assistantships or any awards that you may have received. Reach out to them so you have the most accurate information about what pertains to the funds that you've been awarded. I'm going to turn it over to Lissa.
All right, next question. I got my visa last week and I am planning to enter the US next week, but one of my courses changed from face-to-face to remote. Will there be a problem when I travel back to the US? I'm not sure again if this is for prospective or continuing students. For prospective students, you wouldn't be able to get enrolled until you come to the US, your requirement would be to have at least one face-to-face hybrid or high flex course. If you're a continuing student, you may take all of your courses online or hybrid. So regardless of your course modality, you should be able to enter the United States. All right, next question. I am an international transfer student who is in Texas now. Could you tell me if I can enroll all online classes without leaving the United States? I will refer this to Josephine.
Thank you so much, Lissa, and thanks for the questions. Also, before I do this, I'm going to jump back one more to the one that Lissa answered to give some additional context. So if you are a new student who's coming to the US, to UT Dallas for the first time, You were enrolled, you got your visa. By the way, I'm really excited to hear that you got your visa. If the classes that you were enrolled in changed to be fully online, and you know that you need to be in a class that has an in-person component, I really recommend you reach out to the academic department to see how they can assist you. We've been speaking with them. They know that the guidance came out on Friday. We've provided some information to them to help them understand that our new students really need to have some courses that have in-person components. So reach out to them and explain the circumstances that you have a visa, that you are coming and you do have this requirement, and I'm sure they're going to be able to assist you with it. A lot of our departments have been really proactive at helping our students get enrolled in classes prior to arrival. New thing in the past, you couldn't enroll until you actually physically came to the United States. So I'm glad to hear you have a visa, and work with your academic department, and we look forward to seeing you soon. The next question was about the transfer student in Texas now. Can you enroll in all online classes without leaving the United States? So you do not. So let me say this. For the guidance, again, many times transfer students are treated like new students, but in the guidance, it seemed a little bit unclear whether or not transfer students who were in SEVIS active status in the spring would be able to be treated more like continuing students. And so we really have asked them for additional guidance to be able to clarify that point. And many of us, certainly as Texas institutions, know that we've asked for that additional clarification. I don't think that it's a good idea to try to leave right now until you have more certain information, and I encourage you to be patient with that. If you're a transfer student who is here, let's give it a couple of days. Let's make sure we understand what the enrollment is, but I don't really foresee a need for you to depart the U.S. for this reason. Now, if you intend to leave the United States for other personal reasons, maybe you've decided you want to be home or other things, that's fine. Work with us so we can make sure you understand what the requirements are if you're leaving for another reason. But I don't think this is it seems premature right now to make a decision to leave based on this. Let's get a little bit more guidance so that we know what needs to happen. Okay, I think that's all that I had for that question. Lisa?
All right, I just wanted to add one more thing back to the FV start. So if you have been issued an I-20 for fall and you're going to start your program at UTD abroad, you can log into iComet, click Prospective Student, click New Admit F1 Student, and complete the Visa Update e-form. And all of this information is on our website on the F1 Virtual Start page that can answer in more detail all your questions about a virtual start. So at this time, we have answered all of the questions that we have received. The presentation will be posted on YouTube. And we'd like to let you know that if you do think of questions after this that you didn't bring up today, you can submit an Ask an Advisor e-form. That is how you can send us a question. You can also schedule an appointment with an advisor. We are seeing students through Microsoft Teams. We are able to call you through Teams or through your phone number. You can visit our website to schedule an appointment. We have appointments available Monday and Friday afternoon, as well as Tuesday and Thursday mornings. And we know that this is, unfortunately, you can't come in and see us face to face, but we are doing the best to be available and meet your needs. And also just let us know if there's anything else we can do for you. We're here to guide and support you as much as we can during this time. And please know that we're doing our best to stay on top of the ever-changing guidance and regulatory changes that may impact you. So please keep an eye on your UT Dallas email address. That is where we will be sending any updates we have. And we do strive to send you that information as soon as possible so that you can make educated decisions about your academic and immigration future. We appreciate your time and your attendance. Please keep an eye out for future ISSO live events. These seem to meet the needs of students, so we plan to continue them, and we will let you know about any other advising opportunities that come up in the near future. We hope you have a great day, and we hope to see you at UTD as soon as possible.